It's definitely been one of the more entertaining off seasons for Texas A&M and just in college football in general. Jimbo Fisher obviously has made some noise with recruiting and in many ways, really. But this is a team that is going to be extremely fun to watch in 2022 as well. We're not just talking about off the field. This is a team that's going to ball on the field, and they're going to push teams in the SEC West and in the SEC just in general. I think that if they get the quarterback situation figured out, there's plenty of reason to be excited about the hopes for this team because they have national championship hopes, they have SEC championship hopes, and they have the talent to do it. Jimbo's been doing a great job of bringing the talent into College Station, and there's no reason to believe that they're going to even take a step back. In fact, even with the NFL talent that they did lose, fans are expecting them to take a step forward, and with the guys they have returning, it's easy to see why. Antonio Johnson is the ultimate Swiss Army knife for Texas A&M's defense. You look at what they ask him to do, and he's comfortable doing everything. You want him to line up as a deep safety, he'll do that. If you want him, at times they lined him up essentially as a linebacker, and he not only looked comfortable with how he played physically, he looks like he can play linebacker. He is a guy who is not afraid to get his nose dirty in the trenches. He is not afraid to make plays. And when you look at the stats he's produced, it's the reason you see him all over the field. That gives Texas A&M's defense so much flexibility, and it's something that we're not talking about quite enough yet. He is starting to get plenty of attention, though, from the next level, and it's easy to see why. He's an athletic playmaker who, like I said, can play all over the field, and that's huge for, especially for a defense that needs to find an entire new defensive line and a group of linebackers. So maybe they put him at linebacker, but with the talent they have recruited, there's no reason to believe that they can't just keep going with the guys that are new and allow Antonio Johnson to be that guy that moves around the field for them. With Isaiah Spiller gone, Devin A Chain takes over the rushing attack, and he is the definition of explosive. He averaged 7 yards per carry, 10 yards per catch, and he's also an explosive kick returner. Get him the football as much as you can. You look at some of the best playmakers we've seen in the past. Devin A Chain has the potential to be just like them. He has the potential to be maybe what a DeAnthony Thomas was to Oregon. He's so quick, and he's going to be fun to watch now that he is the starting back with Isaiah Spiller gone. Like I said, it's going to be fun to see how they get him the football because he's so versatile. They have a couple guys that versatility seems to be a quick theme that's emerging with Texas A&M, and that's huge for a team that, like I said, has a ton of talent. You kind of create some depth when you have guys that can play multiple positions, and Devin A Chain is going to be one of those players that can do that and do that extremely well. Demonte Richardson honestly doesn't really get a ton of love because, again, when you have a program with the amount of talent that Texas A&M does, it's easy to get overlooked because you have to play at an elite level consistently every single year, every single week, every single day. But Demonte Richardson, to me, it doesn't get enough love. Now, I've heard that people think he's taking a little bit of a step back, but I'm a big fan of Demonte Richardson. I love his speed. He is like Johnson. He's not afraid to get into the trenches and make plays at the line of scrimmage. He is not afraid to go back in coverage and hit a guy that's going to catch the football. He's not afraid to do anything for this defense. And I think that that's a pairing that we're not talking about enough in terms of great duos in college football. And Demonte Richardson deserves more love, and I think that he'll get it eventually. But for now, we'll stick to him at the top here and let everybody else do the talking. Ainias Smith is that other versatile playmaker that we talked about. He is a little bit smaller, so he's not going to be a guy that you're going to run the football in between the trenches, but you're going to find a way to get him the football because he's an explosive playmaker. They try to get him as many touches as possible, and that's going to be a good thing. Wide receiver has been kind of a question mark for Texas A&M over the last few years, and I think that changes this year. You look at what they have returning, including some of the young talent that's coming in, and a guy like Ainias Smith is going to benefit from that. But not only that, he's going to help those young guys learn and help them emerge as go-to players. Honestly, it was kind of tough to leave some of the secondary players off of this list because I really like the Aggies secondary. But Jalen Jones has to be on the list. This is another guy who's going to be in the NFL for sure, and he is still young in his career. He is still learning quite a bit. but he is super talented, and he's already shown a ton of flashes of his potential, and it's exciting to see what he's going to do, because in the SEC, he's going to face a lot of elite talent. There's a lot of players that are at wide receiver that are going to test him, and they're going to make life difficult. You look at even within the West, there's plenty of guys that are going to make life tough. And Jalen Jones has proven that he's up for the task. He's proven that he is more than capable of defending those guys. And it's a reason why people at the next level are giving him a hard look. Everybody focused on Kenyon Green last year. Laden Robinson is the new guy that everybody wants to look at when it comes to Texas A&M. The guard was a solid contributor for the Aggies last year, and that's going to be something that really the trenches are the biggest thing. And we're going to talk about another guy here in a little bit, and they play important roles because in the SEC, you have to be able to win in the trenches, because if you don't, it doesn't matter how much skill you have at the skill positions. You're not going to win football games if you are not solid in the trenches. And a guy like Laden Robinson is just one of the players on the offensive line that is solid, and it's going to be fun to see what he does to elevate his stock even more. On the opposite side of the ball, we talked about how the Texas A&M defensive line needs to find 4 new starters, and McKinley Jackson is one of those guys that gets to step up. Played a little bit last year. You see his production is not something that you think it as a starter, but that's how good this Texas A&M starting defensive line was last year. And now McKinley Jackson gets a chance to play on the interior at defensive tackle, and there's a ton of talent behind him. Even some of the freshmen they have bringing in, they're going to compete for starting spots. And a guy like McKinley Jackson is going to show them that he is worthy of starting. He's going to remind them why he is the more experienced player, but he's also going to get those guys up to speed. And honestly, the more depth you have at defensive line this year, the better, because you can use the rotation. It's not going to be as dominant as it was last year, or at least top heavy, but having a rotation could be huge for this defense. And as we talk about freshmen, we go back to offense, and Evan Stewart is going to be, I think everybody thinks he's going to be a star for this offense. And that's something that this offense really needs. Texas A&M, like I said, struggled in the passing game a little bit, but Evan Stewart is already proving that he can be a guy for them. You look at the spring game, and obviously you don't want to take too much from it, but he had 7 catches for 75 yards, which when you're a 5-star freshman, people expect big things from you. And if you're able to prove them right, then you're going to get a lot of attention. You're going to get a lot of love, and Evan Stewart has that right now. And if this passing attack takes off, it's going to be because the receivers step up, and whoever wins the quarterback job is going to be reliable and can hit those guys downfield. Speaking of the quarterbacks, we're going to talk about them here in a sec. Now, whether you are a Haynes King or Max Johnson supporter, it's going to be fun to watch this. I think that people give Max the lean after the spring game, but Haynes King is a worthy starter. He started last year before he got hurt, and then obviously we saw Zach Calzada take over. He is an explosive athlete, and if he can figure out, like Calzada, how to put some touch on the football, touch on his passes, he is going to be a lethal weapon as a passer and as a runner. I think that if he, like I said, if he becomes more efficient and more accurate as a passer, I think he's a better option than Max Johnson. He's more explosive, he's more athletic, and if he, like I said, it just comes down to passing. Because I think that when you look at what Max Johnson can do, it's a little bit different. And if Haynes King can be a reliable passer, I think that gives him the edge. Max can be an accurate passer. You know, he threw for over 2,800 yards and 27 touchdowns. I kind of forgot about that, honestly. But it comes down to, you look in the spring game, at the beginning, everybody thought he was doing better mostly because he was running. And it was, 1 or 2 reads and then run. And then finally Jimbo said, throw the football. Don't just run. We're in the spring game to learn, and you kind of saw him struggle. So it's still up for grabs after spring game. Obviously, we don't want to read too much in the spring game, but we know that this position is up for grabs. It's going to be fun to watch, and whichever one of them wins has a lot of weight on their shoulders. There's big expectations in College Station, and for good reason. Jimbo hasn't brought this 4- and 5-star talent in just to finish 3rd or 4th in the SEC West. This is a team that has national championship aspirations, and they have the talent to do it. You just have to find consistency. The defensive, the front 7 has to find all new starters. That's gonna be tough. Even front 6, whatever they're gonna use. They have to find new starters. That's going to take some time. Quarterback is going to be new. That's going to take some time. But everybody else, for the most part, is going to be solid. So if you can build upon that and you can find some consistency, this is a team that's going to be dangerous. They're going to push the Alabamas, the Georgias, and it's going to be a message after finishing first in the recruiting rankings this year that Texas A&M is here to stay, and they're here to make a message, send a message every single year.